In 1906, Franklin County's new jail opened for business and would remain in use for the next 84 years. What saved the old facility from the wrecking ball was the infamous occupant of this cell. Hello, I'm Jim Wilhelm. Today, this building, located in Benton, has become home to the County Museum. And while it tells the story of this area's most famous citizens, most people are attracted by tales of a gangster and the old jail. Typical of its time, the front portion was the sheriff's home, who lived here during his term in office. His wife was expected to prepare the inmates' meals. In the back of the kitchen is a set of bars under which the plates of food were passed. Trustees would then take the meals back to the prisoners in their cells. And we're told that depending on how many people were incarcerated, the sheriff's wife could actually make more money than the sheriff. In the back are 2 floors of identical cells, each measuring 8 feet square. There was no privacy. The rows faced each other and there was no solid back. Notice there are no locks on the doors. They were operated by a series of levers in the front of the cell block. The maximum stay here was 364 days. That's because state law prohibited a stay of longer than 1 year in a county facility. So judges got around that by issuing consecutive 364s. So the prisoner would be released for 1 day and then brought back to serve the next sentence. Most of the crimes punished here were for things like theft, fighting, and common drunkenness. But in 1927, national attention focused on this jail when the famous bootlegger, gangster, and murderer Charlie Birger was admitted. Today, Charlie is a local legend, a kind of Robin Hood character who was quick to help families in trouble with contributions of money, food, or coal for the winter. But on the other hand, he had a quick temper, was a person to fear, and he left a scattering of bodies. Besides bootlegging, he also ran an automobile theft ring, a gambling organization, prostitution, and he organized animal fights. But trouble really exploded when he broke away from his partners, the notorious Shelton brothers. That began a vicious fight for control in southern Illinois, which ended with the Sheltons in Leavenworth and Charlie in this jail. But Charlie knew the charges wouldn't stick until something happened behind this closed door. This was Charlie Birger's cell. When he was arrested, he was so in fear of his life that he convinced the authorities to allow him to keep a loaded machine gun in his cell for the first week. And Charlie did have reason to be afraid. Directly below his cell, behind this door, one of his gang members was singing. He implicated Birger in the murder of Joe Adams, the mayor of a nearby town, who was also an ally of the Shelton brothers. Birger was found guilty and sentenced to die. At that time in Illinois, the method of execution was the electric chair. Unfortunately for Birger, he was to be executed using the method in use at the time of the crime. That was hanging. Among the pictures on display are several showing the stockade that was erected around the jail to prevent a rescue attempt. Tickets to enter the enclosure were given to 100 men who were deputized. Outside his cell is this replica of the gallows from which he spoke his final words, "It's a beautiful world." On April the 19th, 1928, at 9:48 in the morning, the trap door was sprung. 19 minutes later, Charlie Birger was dead. It was the last legal hanging in the state of Illinois. Today, visitors can see the rope and noose that was placed around his neck, along with the handcuffs he wore. Here's a copy of a book sold that day recounting the gangster's fall. And this was the key to Birger's cell, where he spent the last year of his life. Also on display is a telephone booth from the courthouse where Birger's trial was held. And inside is a prison logbook, which notes each prisoner, his crime, and his punishment. Across Charlie's name is written, "Hanged by the neck till dead, dead, dead." Welcome back to the Franklin County Jail Museum in Benton, where there are 2 rooms dedicated to this area's most famous resident. He was a Civil War general, candidate for vice president, and he's credited with keeping Southern Illinois in the Union. His name, of course, is John A. Logan. Here's a picture of the home he and his bride moved into. The picture was taken in 1930, before the house was torn down. This chair is from that house. The legs were cut off by Logan to accommodate his young daughter. And here's the sword he wore during the war, which he later gave to a friend. John Logan is probably best known for issuing General Order No. 11 in 1868, which established Decoration Day as a national holiday, a day for decorating the graves of Civil War soldiers. Today we call it Memorial Day. After the war, to help supplement his income as a politician, he began speculating in area coal mines. On display are some of the letters he wrote while in office regarding land he purchased in Franklin County. Next to the Logan rooms is this one, which contains the 1963 control room equipment from a local radio station. While it could be said that Logan prevented a Southern invasion, this studio helped to start an invasion from overseas. Before almost anyone outside of England had heard of the Beatles, George Harrison came to Benton to visit his sister. She had married an American engineer who had taken a job with the coal company in this area. During his 3-week visit, she took him to WFRX in West Frankfort to play the group's latest single, From Me to You. It was on one of these turntables that the first Beatles single ever broadcast on a U.S. radio station was played. At the time, he was also interviewed at this table using this microphone by the daughter of the station's owner. And while in the area, he sat in with a local group called the Four Vests at a nearby VFW hall. George borrowed one of the band members' Rickenbacker guitar, and he was so impressed with the model that he went to Mount Vernon and bought one for himself. That instrument can be heard on several Beatles records, including A Hard Day's Night. Across from the Harrison exhibit is the bedroom used in 1954 by the son of Sheriff Collins. Today it's being turned into a display area commemorating the basketball career of Doug Collins. He set records at Illinois State University, played on the 1972 Olympic team, was the first-round draft pick of the Philadelphia 76ers in 1973. He was a 4-time All-Star who later became head coach of the Chicago Bulls and then the Detroit Pistons. On display is his Philadelphia warm-up suit from 1976 and his signature, which he left on the wall during a recent visit. And outside, embedded in the oak tree, is an old rusted hoop where he used to practice in the evening. Welcome back to Benton, where a couple of blocks from the jail museum is this developing site. Built in 1910, this building housed the first Ford franchise in Franklin County. Today it houses some more Birger items, as well as some vintage automobiles. Inside is a 1914 Model T with its gas tank under the driver's seat. Since it was gravity-fed, we're told these cars had trouble going up hills, unless it was driven backwards. The tank in this 1926 model is under the cowl above the engine. In those days, this was the hub for 5 other dealers. The cars were shipped here by rail in crates stacked on end. At the station, they were unpacked, tires were put on, they were driven here where the fenders and the roof were attached. When the museum took over this site, all the tools and spare parts were still here. Among the extra belts and hoses, they found these unused insect screens for the radiators, with the paper wrapping still around them. This beautifully restored pickup belonged to Charlie Birger in his pre-Prohibition days. Originally, it was just a flatbed. The wood sides were added during restoration. This is not the only Birger item here at this site. In a cabinet is displayed the homemade bulletproof vest Charlie wore around town. He can be seen wearing it in this picture taken outside his infamous roadhouse. As we've seen, Benton has been the home to a number of famous individuals and even had a role to play in the Beatle history. But just like in this garage, it's hard to get away from the presence and all those stories surrounding Charlie Birger. The Franklin County Jail Museum is also the headquarters of the Franklin County Tourism Bureau and can be reached at 618-439-0608.